So now we're going to look at the biosynthesis of amino acids, how many of them have common precursors, and how some of the amino acids are used to make other amino acids, which we've actually already seen that with glutamine and glutamate, asparagine and aspartate. But this is building upon all of that. Boxes. All right. So unlike bacteria and plants, we cannot synthesize all 20 amino acids. We can only make 11. Those are the non-essential ones. The other 9 have to come from our diet. Okay. So unless you're told otherwise, we're talking about bacterial biosynthesis because it's a little bit more simple, plus the fact that way it covers all 20. There's at least 1 or 2 places where we specifically say, hey, this is the way mammals do it. Like cysteine is going to be the big one I can think of off the top of my head. We do it very differently. And as I was telling you, the intro to micro class today, anytime that mammals can do and humans can do something different than the bacteria or the fungus, we can exploit that to try to make drugs against it. I think the beauty of that was lost on them, but like I said, I think I scared them. But I think this is also really cool because it shows how the metabolic pathways that we've been talking about so far are often used to make amino acids and vice versa. We've already, like I said, some of this should be reviewed. The fact that alanine can be used to make pyruvate, we already know that. We already know about oxalic acetate and aspartate, alpha-ketoglutarate, glutamate, and glutamine, okay, and aspartate and asparagine. So we're just building up off of that one. Now, let's see. That's exactly what I said. Okay, this is just another little, whoops. Oh, come on now. So they can be grouped based off of their precursors sometimes. And so we can see those that are based off of alpha-ketoglutarate. Those are the ones, that's how they're related. Pyruvate, that's how they're related. PEP, phosphatidylpyruvate, how it's related, and so on and so forth. Those with an asterisk are the essential amino acids where we can't do that, but plants or bacteria can. Okay, so that's why we can't go from pyruvate to isoleucine, but a plant and bacteria can. Okay, and then I wanted to show you this because this is a common intermediate. You'll see it multiple times, and they usually just abbreviate as PRPP for phosphoribosal pyrophosphate. Remember, pyrophosphate just means it's 2 phosphates in a row. So that's a phosphoribose pyrophosphate. So PRPP, just in case you see that again. All right. You get PRPP from ribose phosphate, which came from the pentose phosphate pathway. This is just, I don't know why it's so blurry, but yeah, it's kind of blurry there too. But what enzyme can do that? So we have a ribose phosphate, an ATP, and it makes, I'm going to say PRPP plus AMP. What class or classes of enzymes can do that? It's a kinase. And so now just trying to name that is a mouthful because I'll show you the name. It's a kinase, and that's why. See, it's a kinase. It's just, it's got this horribly long name. Ribose phosphate pyrophosphokinase, because it's, and for whatever reason they switched it, it'd be PRPP, but now they just put the ribose phosphate. If you said phosphorypose pyrophosphokinase, I would give it to you. But it should make sense. It's a PRPP kinase. Already, I'm not going to spend time today on this one. So on your own, you can go ahead and look at it, and that's how to make glutamate and glutamine, because it's literally just from the last big set of PowerPoints, and how that they're interchangeable, and for example, glutamine can make glutamate from glutamate dehydrogenase. Okay. All right. So let's start here. Oh, I keep doing this. We're going to start with alpha-ketoglutarate. I think you already know how to go from alpha-ketoglutarate to glutamate and glutamine. Right? Because what enzyme is it that goes from alpha-ketoglutarate, alpha-KG to glutamate? Aminotransferases, okay? And so, how do these happen? Well, because they happen, it's part of the nitrogen fixation pathway that we just all covered and the synthesis that are involved. Okay, so we're going to focus on the others. This is the big picture. We're going to break it down, so don't try to freak out right here. I don't even think I put it on the one that's on the one that's got the boxes that we can put in. Most of these will make sense. Once in a while, we'll have some of those, like argininosuccinase kind of enzymes. All right. So the problem that I always have is trying to remember which order I go in. So I have to cheat. I don't tell you the wrong one. Yes. All right. So we're going to start with glutamate because it makes sense. We've made alpha-ketoglutarate made glutamate using aminotransferase. We now have glutamate right here. So we're going to look at this enzyme. It has an ATP. The final product is called gamma-glutamyl phosphate. And once again, they have to say the gamma because, in theory, you could phosphorylate in multiple places. And it's the terminal R groups carboxylate that got phosphorylated. So what class or classes of enzymes can do this? It's a kinase. And so if you want to name this kinase, what would you name it? That's one possibility. What's another possibility? Glutamate, and this one's the easier of the two. It's glutamate kinase. Yep, this is glutamate kinase. The next step is a little bit promiscuous in the sense that it can accept either NAD or NADPH. And so we take this phosphorylated glutamate, that's all that means, phosphorylated glutamate. I cannot speak today, it's Friday. It's Friday. Even though I do have a testimony, my breathing machine finally came in, hallelujah. I got trained on it yesterday by a woman named Pinky who told me I was old. So, I'm like, thank you, I think. She goes, but don't worry. She goes, you don't look your age. It's like, thank you, I think.
That had to be an interesting interaction.
Yes. Like, you're in my house telling me I'm old. But I was filling out the emergency contact part, and she's like, you can put your wife down, and if you want to, she goes, and some people put down their children as they get older and everything. She goes, of course, you're not old enough to have, to have kids like that. And I didn't say anything. And so then she's like, no, my paper. She goes, oh yes, sure. She goes, you're old. She goes, you're old enough to have kids like that. And I said, well, actually, my wife and I are expecting our first one and stuff. But I want to say, and she goes, don't worry, you don't look your age. She was like, thank you. I'm going to say, Milo, sick. No, I didn't. Because he was the only one of the 4 dogs I didn't put away. Because he's old, so he's just laying there. But then she's only like a year or two younger than me. She's like, don't worry. She goes, my husband and I started late too. She goes, we were like 30 when we had our first child. And I wanted to say, so what are you still trying to say to me? You're not making me feel any better about myself. Pinky, not that I'm going to, denigrate your name since I go by Germ, so. But yeah, no, I did. It was weird. All right, but we're getting back on task here. I don't know how Pinky came up on this one, but because the enzyme doesn't sound anything like it. What class or classes of enzymes can utilize NADH and NADPH? It's a dehydrogenase, and so if you're going to name this, we have a glutamate that's phosphorylated that's being dehydrogenated, which I'm totally verbing that myself. I sound like a Joss Whedon movie now. What would you name this one? It's glutamate dehydrogenase.
It's too easy.
Don't say that. Don't jinx it, please. The next step, if you think back, and I know you guys remember organic chemistry like it was yesterday, but we have both. We've got. It actually doesn't require an enzyme, it does it on its own because we have a nucleophile here that can attack the electrophile. And so it just attacks on that. So you can see how it's starting to look like proline. That's the ultimate goal. So that's just non-enzymatic. But then we have to go, and this has a horrible name. The delta 1, just let you once again, that just means that at position 1 it's a double bond. Pyrroline 5-carboxylate, they all just call it P5C. I would never ask you to draw pyrroline 5-carboxylate. You can call it P5C, that's fine with me. But if you notice, we have an NADH or NADPH that's going and it's oxidizing to make the proline, essentially just to get rid of that double bond. Okay, so what class or classes of enzymes can do this? It's a dehydrogenase, but remember some of them had like historical names that also meant that. What's another one? There's oxidases and reductases, and this is a reductase. So, and it's fine with me if you wanted to call it P5C reductase, because people would know what you're talking about, rather than have to know pyrroline carboxylate. But it's a reductase. And I don't know historically why they kept some, but why don't? I mean, it is a dehydrogenase in the sense it's using NADH, but they just kept
Now, does this go backwards?
This one, I'm trying to think if this one can go backwards. I know this step does. I don't believe this step does well, but I'm not for sure about the P5C reductase. Because I don't want to tell you one thing right, because we're going to see. I mean, we're going to talk about P5C again later on. Okay, so now if we go back up to the top, so now we have glutamate, and we're making N-acetylglutamate. And if you remember from organic chemistry, this is an acetyl group, and the N, this is the locant. Because if it's not hanging, if the functional group's not hanging off of a carbon, they get the locant as the element that it's hanging off of. And that's why you can have S, O, and N. Okay, those are the ones that we see. I guess in theory you could have other ones. Biologically, S, O, and N are the important ones. And so that's all that N means. And that's why you can see it there. It's italicized. It's supposed to be in italics to let you know it's a locant. But it's N-acetylglutamate. And so the way that we get that is through acetyl-CoA, our good friend acetyl-CoA, kicking off the coenzyme A, the CoAsh. So I can think of a couple of different classes of enzymes that could do this. What's one class of enzyme that could do this? A synthase. And by the way, this is a synthase. How do we know it's a synthase versus a synthetase? No ATP. The only one that sometimes people say, oh, it could be a transferase, like an acetyltransferase. I'm like, oh, sometimes I get partial credit for it, but this one's a synthase. And what is it synthesizing? Yes. And so the name for this one is, they just say acetylglutamate, but if you said N-acetylglutamate, that's good. For me. So that's why I told you early on, if people disbelieve me, I even mentioned that using biochemistry 1. Like if you know those enzyme family names, there's a good shot you can get it. Or you can start to understand what it is. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next step, the next box going down, was ultimately, and if you notice, we're trying to make arginine, but it has to carry on because it doesn't. Arginine is harder to make than protein. But we have N-acetylglutamate, we have ATP, we get 10 negative 2 products, ADP and N-acetyl gamma glutamyl phosphate. And so, yes, this is a kinase. And so if we were going to name this kinase, what would we name this kinase? That's one possibility. What?
N-acetylglutamate kinase.
That's it. It's like, no, you know, we got a 50-50 shot. Usually it's named in the forward direction. Once in a while we get those that are named backwards, like pyruvate kinase. Or not pyruvate kinase, it's for pyruvate, carboxykinase, all that kind of stuff. Or pyruvate kinase, yeah, what was that? That's right. And the one that I'd always forget about was succinyl-CoA synthetase because it's, why is it named backwards, you know? It makes no sense. Alrighty. So we take, I'm going to call it NAGP. I just don't want to have to keep saying that whole thing out. But we take that, and I like the fact that they put them side by side. That way you can compare the tubes. Because what we're doing now is we're taking that phosphate and we're ultimately turning it into an aldehyde at the expense of an NAD or an NADPH. And so what class or classes of enzymes can do this? It's a dehydrogenase. And if you were going to name that one, and if you call it NAGP dehydrogenase, I would give it to you. They actually just don't put the P on it. If you make sure you abbreviate, tell me what NAGP stands for. But yes, it's the N-acetylglutamate dehydrogenase. If you called it N-acetylglutamate glutamyl phosphate dehydrogenase, that's perfectly fine for me at least. This is where it starts to veer from looking like the whey protein because it's not a cyclic reaction. We have to start to add on all those. Remember, it's got all those nitrogens and all that stuff on there, and so we have to now start adding onto it. And what we do is this is actually another use for glutamate, becoming alpha-ketoglutarate, is we've activated that end since it's got a carbonyl group. Okay. And so we're going to now take a glutamate and we're adding on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, the nitrogen. We get that nitrogen from a glutamate and make an alpha-ketoglutarate. So what enzyme is this? This is an aminotransferase. Okay. By the way, your book just calls it aminotransferase. Technically speaking, if you were going to be perfectly honest, it would be N-acetylglutamate, gamma-aldehyde, you know, but it's aminotransferase. Now, this intermediate here is N-acetyl, because once again, N-acetyl ornithine, which we've seen ornithine, we didn't see N-acetylated. I'm making that word up. That sounds good. All right, we didn't see it with that functional group on it, but we've seen ornithine. Where have we seen ornithine before? Urea cycle, right? Oxaloacetate is in citric acid cycle. So yeah, it's part of the urea cycle, or this would be similar to the urea cycle. So now we're going to continue on to the next. Just pick up. We're trying to make that guanidino group at the very end.
Is that trade box like signaling any?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Making sure that wasn't just like saying it's adding this.
No, I hid
Okay, what it's processing.
what it is. Okay. So we have N-acetyl ornithine, and we are trying, essentially we are deacetylating it. Okay. This one's got a special name, of course. Really close. Really close to saying ornithase. Be a little bit more specific than just ornithase.
Acetyl ornithase?
Even closer.
Acetyl ornithase?
That's it. And by the way, the other box was because now we had this ornithine, it's just the urea cycle. Like people overthink it now because before you saw the urea cycle cyclically, yeah, that's a word, cyclically, and now because you're not continuing all the way on with arginase to remake the ornithine. You're wanting the goal here is for the cell to make arginine, not to get rid of the nitrogen. And so that's why this should be a review. It's not new. We have the carboxyl phosphate, and then it's going to go ahead and go on to make citrulline. Let me show you what the citrulline is. Does anyone remember what's the enzyme that does that one? The ornithine carboxyl transferase. Okay. Then we have to have, this is where the aspartate, which came from the aspartate transferase, and an ATP, and it's a technically two-step process, but they're only showing them combined to get the final product of arginine succinate. Does anyone remember what this one was called? It was the synthetase, the argininosuccinate synthetase, because we require that ATP in order to make that. Okay, and then last but not least, we have the enzyme that breaks it apart to where you get fumarate, which where does the fumarate go? Citric acid. So you actually can get energy, that way. And then you make arginine. Does anyone remember what was the name of that one? Now's the time, Ronnie.
Arginine.
Argininosuccinase.
I jumped the gun.
You jumped the gun. Okay, so what happens whenever, arginine is hard to make. You can see all the steps. Let's say that we need arginine and you haven't been getting enough protein in general from your diet. How can we go about making it some other way that's not quite as difficult? And what we do is, this is like, I don't know, protein synthesis meets The Walking Dead or something. We scavenge from proline. We're like, what, arginine, we need it for other things. Proline, tough. Okay, so we take that P5C, because remember, it's non-enzymatic. It can open and close, open and close, open and close. And when it's in its open form, that semi-aldehyde form, all you have to do then is add on that nitrogen from using glutamate to make a-ketoglutarate. Then you got ornithine, and ornithine can enter into the urea cycle to make the arginine. You are doing this at the expense of proline. Of course, proline is not, used as a neurotransmitter, not used for things. It's important for collagen. So I guess if this went on for too long, you'd have breakdown of proteins and breakdown of collagen. But at least for the short term, like during fasting or something like that, this is one way that your body can make arginine, okay, without having to utilize glutamate. Because remember, glutamate has to be used for other things as well. But it is important. Okay, so that P5C opens up and closes, opens and closes to glutamate semialdehyde. Okay. So what enzyme can do this? It's aminotransferase. And this is ornithine aminotransferase. Now technically there's a little asterisk that they put on it because they're more specific. If you just said ornithine aminotransferase, I would give it to you. They call it the delta because all the other aminotransferases did it at the alpha position, and this one literally does at the end. But it's ornithine delta aminotransferase. It is ornithine aminotransferase. So nothing new. So that's how we can scavenge. Gotta learn to utilize your resources, or otherwise the zombies will get you.
So essentially, goes backward and goes the other direction.
Mm-hmm. Your body will start to break down proteins. Either it's going to have free proline around, or it's going to start to break some of the stuff down and utilize that proline in order to make arginine, and that way you can have the glutamate as well for other things. The glutamate / alpha-ketoglutarate. You're not utilizing and using it all up.
Wait, so that goes directly to make ornithine instead of going through the whole process?
Well, it starts from in the one figure that had them side by side, is it goes up and around,
Okay.
instead of going all the way from the beginning to take it away from, I shouldn't say take away from glutamate, to take it away from alpha-ketoglutarate. Because remember, to get the original glutamate, if you go far enough back, you got from alpha-ketoglutarate, it had to become glutamate, and then glutamate started the proline and arginine process. Here, we can actually utilize pre-existing proline and not have to use up that alpha-ketoglutarate. Does that make sense? Because we're talking about under fasting conditions where arginine is only low because you're not getting enough protein, your diet typically. So, all right. Now, the next group of amino acids is we're going to start from 3-phosphoglycerate. Where does that come from? Which of the metabolic pathways is that split off of? It's glycolysis. I know. Don't forget it though. It's very important. Very, very important. I know when I was at University of Missouri, we started the very first week with glycolysis. And so then we didn't listen to like part 2, and so it's like a year ago, like a year had passed. It's a long time. All right. And so 3-phosphoglycerate is going to go on to make serine. Serine goes on to make glycine and cysteine. All right. This is where we now have to really start to pay attention to what cofactors, especially towards the bottom, you can see. Because remember, we talked about the 3 biggies. We have the aminotransferases that we've talked about before. We have the methyltransferases and the ways that we can move methyl carbon groups around. And then we have the amide transferases. So now we're going towards the bottom here, we can see. We're going to look at some of these formation and moving of carbons and things like that. Okay, so the very first step is 3-phosphoglycerate becoming 3-phosphohydroxypyruvate, which is a mouthful. But when we take an NAD, we get an NADH. And in doing so, where do you suppose that NADH should go? Electron transport chain. So, all right. So what class or classes of enzymes could this one be? Dehydrogenase. And so if you're going to name it, you could name it. See, you guys are on a roll. They didn't put it doesn't even mean it, but yes. Mm-hmm. That's why serine is easy. Don't overthink it. It's glycine that's going to get you. Okay? Serine is easy. No, the one to make glycine, I think, is one of the most difficult ones ever. But that's beside the point. All right, so now we've got 3-phosphohydroxypyruvate. We're making 3-phosphoserine. It's a glutamate becoming alpha-ketoglutarate. We're just adding in nitrogen. And so what would this one be? It's aminotransferase. What one in particular would this one be? I'd give you points for it. What's another possibility? It's also the phosphoserine. Yeah. But yeah, if you called it 3-phosphohydroxypyruvate, I'm giving that is true. I think it's because technically it's named after the amino acid portion of it, so I think that's the reason why the philosophy behind it. Just like aspartate, aminotransferase, alanine transferase. Okay. Then we have the 3-phosphoserine becoming serine. Water comes in, smacks off an inorganic phosphate. So what class or classes of enzymes could this one be? Phosphatase, because it was just on your exam. And so if you're going to name it, it would be phosphoserine phosphatase. Yes. I know, I was like, don't. See, I told you, making serine is easy. It's what you do with it.
Had a lot of cofactors.
It's tricky. And I'm telling you, when you see the name, you're like, okay, now I understand. But I don't think I've ever, every time I've asked, like, so what would you name this one? I don't think I've ever got anyone who's gotten the name right the first time. You can usually guess, it's got three, there's the three-word one, and you can usually guess at least one of them.
Is it a complex?
It's not, no, it's an enzyme, but
Is it glycine?
no, serine, serine, right? Because you don't know it's going to be one or the other. That's why I say so. Serine, it's serine something. But now let's talk about what is actually going on. Okay. What is the only difference between serine and glycine? Methoxy group. Okay, which another way of saying methoxy is the hydroxy methyl group. Right. That's the only. I mean, methoxy and hydroxy methyl mean the same thing. Okay. And so now, and whenever we talked about before we talked about this is, by the way, I didn't point it out. I'll put it on here just in case you watch it later on. This right here is the way that they abbreviate tetrahydrofolate. Okay, which do you remember what was tetrahydrofolate involved in? What kind of class of reactions that we talked about just a little while ago?
Oh, PLP, isn't that aminotransferase?
It's, well, I mean, PLP is for aminotransferases, but what about tetrahydrofolate? Your folates. What class of, there was, in these metabolic pathways, we see three general overall things over and over typing in. One was, aminotransferases. We also had the amidotransferase. Of course, we had redox reactions. And then we had that third one, when we were transferring things. Well, technically it's a transferase. It's methyltransferase. These are usually used to transfer carbon-containing groups. So the name for this one is serine hydroxymethyltransferase. Now, why they don't name it glycine hydroxymethyltransferase, I do not know, because it always gave me a fit, because it is transferring a hydroxymethyl group, which is a methoxy. Well, technically not methoxy, but methoxynol. You know what I'm saying? Methanol group. But they name it after the product and not the react. Well, I mean, how can I say it? They name it after the serine and not the glycine. And so it's serine hydroxymethyltransferase. And like I said, that to me is probably one of the most difficult names to always remember. Okay. And now on Monday, what we're going to do is pick up with looking at cysteine, because plants and bacteria make cysteine one way, and mammals make cysteine a different way. And so I almost always ask a question about comparing and contrasting because they're so different. They are so different. Okay, but